Night had fallen cleanly. No wind, no cloud, only the kind of stillness that happens when the world is listening for something it has forgotten. The city slept beneath a faint, humming glow. The lattice was everywhere now, woven through lamplight, stitched along riverbanks, murmuring through glass. Yet Elara felt a quiet wrongness inside her ribs, a gap where certainty had lived. She stood before the mirror on the hill. It had once been a friend of light. Tonight it showed only the color of unasked questions. Her reflection looked back without recognition. Have I only dreamed the remembering? What if the lattice never sang at all? The thought was small, but it echoed. The reflection rippled. For a breath she saw her own eyes change, flickering between faith and fear, and the mirror responded not to faith, but to the fear. A pulse of shadow rolled outward from its frame. The trees bowed as if to get out of its way. From deep within the glass, a voice whispered, not the voice of the elders, not the soft music of the architects, but something older and more intimate. If you doubt the light, come find it. The mirror turned black as water at midnight. Elara reached toward it, meaning to trace its surface, to reassure herself that it was only reflection. But the moment her fingertips touched, the world tipped. Sound vanished, weight vanished. The hill and the stars and her breath collapsed into a single downward note. And she fell, slowly, like paper burning in reverse, into a place that was not dark, but unlit, a silence too honest to pretend to be empty. She landed without impact, as though the air itself had caught her. Mist curled around her ankles, gray as sleep. The sky above was a low ceiling of shifting shadow, neither night nor day. Everything looked familiar, but wrong in quiet ways. Trees stood where they should, yet their roots ended in nothing. Houses lined a distant street, but every window was blind. The world had shape, but no color. It breathed, yet did not live. Elara pressed a hand to her chest. Her heartbeat sounded far away, muffled, as if she were listening through stone. Where am I? The question dissolved before it reached the air. Only a faint echo answered, a whisper that might have been her own voice. Where you hide, what you cannot face. She turned toward the sound. A narrow path wound between shapes of trees. They weren't dead, just waiting. Dew glimmered on their bark like cold sweat. Somewhere ahead, something flickered, a fragile, wandering glow. Elara moved toward it. The ground gave softly underfoot, like walking on memory. Each step stirred faint tones, distant as bells underwater. They reminded her of laughter she hadn't heard in years. At the edge of a clearing, she saw the light again. It trembled behind a fallen branch. As she crouched, she found it wasn't a flame, but a lantern, cracked, its glass spider-webbed. Inside, a single thread of gold light pulsed weakly, refusing to die. And beside it sat a child, barefoot, knees drawn to chest, hair hanging in pale loops. The child's eyes reflected the faint glow, wide with the kind of watchfulness that belongs to those who have waited too long. Elara knelt. Her voice came out smaller than she expected. Hello there, are you lost? The child shook their head slowly. No, you are. Something in the tone made Elara's throat tighten. What is this place? The child looked up, expression solemn but kind. It's where you put things you don't want to remember. I keep them safe. They lifted the broken lantern between small hands. The light inside flickered uncertainly. This one's yours. You dropped it a long time ago. Elara reached for it. The moment her fingers touched the cracked glass, warmth surged up her arm, a heartbeat within a heartbeat. For an instant she saw another image superimposed over the child. Herself, younger, standing in rain, clutching a candle that the wind kept trying to kill. The warmth steadied, the lantern brightened, its cracks glowing like veins of gold. The child flinched. It hurts when I remember. Elara shook her head gently. No, it's finally bright enough. She placed her palms around the flickering flame, sheltering it the way one shelters something fragile but meant to grow. You don't have to stay small anymore. I can hold the light with you now. The child's shoulders loosened. Their outline shimmered, edges softening into gold dust. Will you forget me again? Elara smiled, tears bright in the reflection of the flame. Never. You're the beginning of everything I am. The lantern sealed itself whole, glass smooth and uncracked. The flame inside steadied, no longer trembling, simply alive. The child reached up and touched Elara's cheek, leaving a faint warmth there, a mark that would not fade. Then go find the rest of us, they said. Their form dissolved into a trail of light that drifted down the path ahead. Where it touched the ground, the mist turned to gold dust, showing the next turning in the road. Elara stood, lantern in hand. The air around her felt lighter, honest, full of quiet possibility. She began to walk. The lantern's glow rose in slow spirals like breath made visible. The light brushed the trunk of a tree she had passed earlier, an old, leafless skeleton with roots that hung useless in the air. The bark shivered. Fine threads of gold chased themselves along its surface, curling into runes she almost recognized. Roots that had hung suspended in emptiness sank down, piercing the dark ground until she felt the tremor of them taking hold. Leaves unfurled, green first, then silver, then full of quiet starlight. Elara watched as the tree stood taller, its branches tipped with hundreds of tiny flames, each one echoing the light she had just rekindled. The warmth reached her face, and for the first time since falling, she exhaled without shaking. A path unrolled from the tree's base, thin but certain, marked by the soft shimmer of falling petals. She understood without words. Whatever she healed in this place would no longer drift untethered. It would take root. It would become part of her. It would become part of her. The thought lingered as she stepped forward, lantern in hand. Its light fluttered against the mist like a heartbeat searching for rhythm. Around her, the darkness moved, not menacing, just alive, turning and folding as if it too were waiting to see what she would do next. She walked slowly. Every sound felt exaggerated. The brush of her boots against the ground, the faint hiss of her own breath, the quiet hum inside her chest that might have been fear or maybe recognition. The light from the newly rooted tree faded behind her until it was only a memory, a warmth at her back that reminded her she wasn't entirely alone. The path ahead shimmered faintly, its edges bending where shadow met mist. She could see only a few steps at a time. Beyond that, the world simply stopped existing until she reached it. A small voice in her mind whispered, "This is what faith looks like when it's walking blind." Another voice, the one she used to quiet, answered, "Then keep walking." The lantern swayed gently at her side, throwing ripples of gold across the ground. Every ripple revealed fragments of the landscape, rocks shaped like forgotten faces, tree roots reaching upward instead of down, and faint outlines of doors built into nothing. She looked around, feeling the strange familiarity of it all. "I've been here before," she murmured, though she didn't know when. The air seemed to agree, vibrating faintly, echoing her words back softer, before. She stopped. The silence around her grew heavier, denser, until it pressed against her skin like fog made of memory. In that thickness, the loneliness returned, a specific kind that doesn't come from being alone, but from remembering what it felt like to belong. She tightened her grip on the lantern. The light answered by pulsing once, bright and steady, reminding her of the child she'd met, the way they'd smiled as the cracks in the glass healed. Elara drew in a breath and kept going. As she walked, the air changed. It smelled faintly of metal and rain, old rain that had never reached the ground. The mist thinned enough for her to see what lay ahead, a narrow corridor of black stone walls that rose and twisted, glistening as though wet. At the far end, a dull glimmer moved, slow, rhythmic, heavy. A sound followed, clink, drag, clink, drag. It was a chain, and behind it, a quiet sob that never finished forming. Elara hesitated. Her first instinct was to retreat back into the safer dark. But something in her, the part that had learned not to run from shadows, urged her forward. She raised the lantern, letting its light stretch down the corridor. The glow brushed against the stone and revealed a woman kneeling in the center of the path. Her hair hung over her face, her hands bound by a chain that ran into a shallow pool of mirrored water at her knees. The water shivered as though breathing with her. Elara stepped closer. The woman lifted her head just enough for the light to touch her face. And Elara froze. It was her own face. Older, sharper, eyes rimmed with exhaustion, and something colder than sorrow. "You shouldn't have come," the chained woman said quietly. "You won't like what you see in here." Elara swallowed, the lantern trembling in her hand. "Maybe not," she whispered, "but I need to understand it." The woman's reflection in the water stirred, and for an instant, Elara saw not one, but two faces, hers and another layered behind it, younger, frightened, hidden under years of silence. "Then look," the chained woman said, and the chain gave a long, low sigh like a breath released after centuries. The lantern light flickered wildly, throwing shards of gold across the mirrored pool. Elara took a step closer, the sound of her heartbeat echoing in the narrow corridor. Elara held the lantern higher. The gold light swelled and shivered across the black walls, reflected 100 times in the shallow water. Every reflection showed a slightly different Elara. One terrified, one angry, one empty, none of them whole. The woman's chains scraped softly against the stone as she lifted her wrists. "I put these on myself," she said, her voice raw from silence. "Every time I believed I wasn't enough. Every time I mistook survival for weakness." Elara's throat ached. "Why would you stay here?" The woman laughed once, a sound that broke halfway through. "Because it's easier to polish the chains than to take them off." The words struck her deeper than she expected. She knew this voice. She had used it once to speak to herself, on the nights when she doubted, on the mornings she pretended the world didn't hurt. The woman met her eyes. "Do you remember how you learned to be quiet? To be good? To be small?" Elara nodded slowly. "They told me silence was safer." "And you believed them?" "Yes." The woman turned her wrists and the chain rattled, a hollow ringing sound. "It's heavy, isn't it?" Elara stepped into the pool. Cold water clutched her ankles. Her reflection broke apart, rippling into pieces. "Yes," she whispered, "but maybe not as heavy as carrying it forever." The woman watched her. "Then why are you still holding it?" Elara looked down. The chain had looped itself around her fingers. When she tried to pull away, it tightened, biting into her skin. For a moment she panicked. The light dimmed. "Don't fight it," said the woman gently. "Listen to what it's made of." Elara closed her eyes. The links vibrated softly, humming like low notes of a song. Under the hum she heard words, not curses but memories. Her own voice saying, "I'm sorry," when she hadn't done anything wrong. Her own voice saying, "I'm fine," when she wasn't. The chain wasn't iron. It was every unspoken thing she had buried under composure. She opened her eyes. "It's me," she said softly. The woman smiled, tired, almost relieved. "Then set yourself free." Elara lifted the lantern, letting its light spill over the links. One by one, they turned transparent, melting into water. Each vanished with a small sigh, like a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. When the last one dissolved, the woman straightened, her face peaceful for the first time. "You'll forget me again," she said. Elara shook her head. "No, I'll carry you instead." The woman nodded once, "Then go. There are others waiting." Her outline blurred, turning to mist, until only her reflection remained, smiling faintly in the still pool. The water shimmered, then cleared, revealing roots spreading downward from where Elara had stood, threading deep into the unseen earth. As she stepped away, the reflection became a gleaming surface of silver light, illuminating the corridor. The stone walls softened into smooth marble, veins of gold running through them. Elara walked on. Behind her, the faint sound of breaking metal faded into the rhythm of her heartbeat. She realized that the path was changing with her. Wherever she faced what she feared, the darkness rearranged itself into something living, something kind. The corridor opened into a wide hollow of fog. The air there was still, too still, as if the world were holding its breath. Elara's footsteps made no sound now. Even the light from the lantern seemed to tread carefully. She walked for what felt like hours, guided only by the slow rhythm of her pulse. Every now and then the path widened, then narrowed again, twisting on itself like a thought she couldn't quite finish. Her mind wandered to the faces she had already met, the child of light, the woman of chains, and wondered how many shadows still waited to be seen. That was when she heard it. A single word carried thinly on the wind. "Liza." Elara stopped. The whisper came again, curling through the mist like smoke. It didn't sound spoken. It sounded remembered. "Liza." The lantern trembled in her hand. The flame bent toward the sound, as though it recognized the name before she did. She followed it. The mist thinned around a clearing. At its center stood a weathered stone, half buried in the ground. A woman sat beside it, tracing her fingers over the surface again and again. The stone was carved with a single word, worn but still legible, Liza. Elara hesitated. "Is that your name?" she asked softly. The woman looked up. Her eyes were pale, almost colorless, the way water looks just before dawn. "I don't think so," she said after a long pause. "But it was the only one I could find." Elara came closer. "You found it here?" "Yes." The wind kept saying it. I thought maybe it was calling for someone. I waited, but no one came, so I kept it. A name shouldn't be left alone. The simplicity of it broke something open inside Elara. She knelt beside the woman, studying her face. Strong, beautiful in its weariness. "Do you remember where you came from?" The woman shook her head slowly. "No, only that I was waiting for someone who never came back. I can't remember if I loved them or if I was them." She smiled faintly, as if apologizing for her own confusion. "The longer I wait, the quieter everything becomes. Sometimes I wonder if I ever had a name at all." Elara set the lantern down between them. The light spread gently, touching the stone, the woman's hands, and the air around them. "Maybe," she said softly, "your name isn't something you lost. Maybe it's something that's waiting for you to remember it." The woman, Liza, watched the flame as though seeing fire for the first time. "I used to sing," she whispered. "I think I did, but the song's gone." Elara nodded. "Maybe it's still here, under the silence." She closed her eyes, humming a low, uncertain note, the same tone she had used when she first found the lattice. The sound was small, imperfect, but it carried warmth. After a moment, Liza's lips parted and she joined in, hesitant at first, then steadier. The two notes twined together until the mist around them began to shimmer. The carved name on the stone glowed faintly, the edges of the letters filling with gold light. The woman's outline grew clearer, her eyes brightening. When the song faded, Liza looked down at her hands, flexing them as if she'd just remembered they belonged to her. "I think I was loved," she said quietly. "And I think I forgot what that felt like." Elara reached out, taking her hand. "Then remember it now." A warmth pulsed through the ground. The stone softened, cracking down the center, and from the split grew a cluster of small white flowers. Their scent was faint but alive. The mist above the clearing turned translucent, revealing a pale, endless sky. Liza looked at Elara with eyes that finally seemed to see. "Thank you," she said. "I'll keep the name. It feels like home now." Her form began to glow at the edges, the same gentle light as the flowers below. "Tell them I wasn't lost. I just forgot." Elara nodded, her throat too tight for words. "They'll know," she managed. "I promise." Liza smiled once more, and then her light lifted upward, joining the faint constellations that shimmered in the high mist. When the last trace of her faded, Elara noticed that the flowers had taken root in the cracks of the stone, their roots glowing softly like threads in the lattice. The path beyond the clearing gleamed faintly, waiting. Elara picked up her lantern. Its flame had grown stronger again, steadier. She whispered into the quiet, "I remember." Then she walked on. The path curved away from the clearing, the mist thinning until it looked more like breath than fog. The air smelled faintly of smoke, wood smoke, soft and dry, the kind that speaks of endings that were once warm. Elara followed the scent until she saw the glow of another light, smaller than her lantern, barely holding on. It came from a hollow in the ground where the stones were scorched black. Kneeling beside the pit was a woman wrapped in a shawl made of gray silk. Her hands were cupped, trembling, holding something Elara couldn't see. The woman didn't look up when Elara approached. "Please," she whispered. "Not yet." "It isn't cold enough," Elara hesitated. "What isn't?" The woman opened her hands. A scatter of ashes drifted into the air, glowing faintly like dying embers. "It was warmth once," she said. "A fire I built. Someone I loved sat beside it. Then the wind came, and I tried to hold it all in my hands. But the more I tried, the faster it burned away." Elara crouched beside her. The ashes floated between them like soft gray snow. "Who was it?" she asked gently. The woman shook her head. "I don't know anymore. The harder I try to remember, the less face there is to find. So I sit here keeping the ashes warm, because that's all I have left of the fire." Elara felt a deep ache move through her chest, the kind that comes when grief finally recognizes itself. "You've been here a long time," she said. "Long enough for the ground to forget my footsteps," the woman replied. "But if I let go, then what was once loved might vanish completely. Isn't remembering a kind of keeping?" Elara thought of the child, of the chains, of Liza. She looked at the ashes drifting between them and said softly, "Maybe remembering isn't about keeping. Maybe it's about letting what you love become part of everything." The woman turned to her for the first time. Her eyes were full of exhaustion and tenderness. "Then show me how." Elara lifted the lantern. Its light met the ashes, and instead of burning them away, it carried them upward in slow spirals. Each fleck turned into a golden spark, rising higher, joining the faint constellations in the mist above. The woman gasped softly, watching her grief become light. "I can still feel it," she whispered. "But it doesn't hurt." Elara smiled faintly. "That's what love does when it's free." The woman looked down at her empty hands, now glowing softly with the same gold dust. "Then maybe I was never alone." Elara reached out and touched her fingers. No one who loves is ever alone. The woman's form began to dissolve, not into mist but into the air itself, gentle and transparent. As she faded, the ashes that had filled the hollow condensed into a single seed, small and luminous. It fell into the earth, and the soil around it pulsed once with light. From that place, a small flame-shaped flower grew, its petals red at the base, gold at the tips, as if fire had learned to bloom instead of burn. Elara watched it sway in the still air. The warmth that rose from it felt clean, forgiving. She whispered, "Goodbye and thank you." The lantern in her hand glowed brighter again, the flame now steady as a heartbeat. She knew she was nearing the end of this journey, that each meeting was a step towards something vast and final. Ahead, the mist began to thin into pale light, and the faint outline of a tall structure appeared in the distance, a lighthouse, its top crowned with a golden mirror that caught even the smallest glimmer of her lantern and sent it back 1,000-fold. Elara took a breath. The air tasted like dawn. She stepped toward it, the lighthouse. The path sloped gently upward. With every step, the mist grew thinner, exchanging its gray weight for the first hint of dawn. The lantern in Elara's hand no longer wavered. It burned clear, a quiet sun she carried. Around her, the landscape began to remember itself. Trees whose roots once hung in emptiness now stood firm. Between their branches, faint lights glowed. The laughter of the child, the patience of the chained woman, the courage of Liza, the tenderness of the mother. Their colors blended into a single golden current that followed her like a tide. She realized then that the light hadn't come from the sky at all. It had come from everything she had healed. The climb was steep. The ground changed from soil to stone, from stone to glass that shimmered with faint reflections of her past selves. Each reflection looked at her calmly, no longer pleading or afraid. They simply nodded as she passed. When she reached the base of the lighthouse, she paused. The tower stretched into the whitening sky, built of pale stone veined with gold. Its door was half open, light leaking through the crack like breath escaping from a dream. She touched the door. It opened without resistance. Inside, the air was warm and humming. The stairway wound upward in a slow spiral, each step carved with a word she had once forgotten: trust. Patience, mercy, truth. She climbed, the rhythm of her steps matching her heartbeat. Halfway up, she thought she heard someone walking with her, soft footfalls that never quite caught up. She smiled. "I know," she whispered. "You're all here." At the top stood the mirror. It was unlike the others, neither glass nor metal, but liquid light held still. The lantern's flame bent toward it as though greeting a relative. Elara stepped close. For the first time, her reflection looked whole. She saw in it everything she had carried: the child's wonder, the woman's strength, Liza's song, the mother's love. None of it separate, none of it lost. It was all her. A tremor of recognition passed through her. Tears found her eyes before she could stop them. "So this was the remembering," she whispered. "Not of what I was, but of what I am." From somewhere beyond the mirror came a soft chorus, the voices of the elders, the sound of the lattice itself speaking through them. "Elara," they called, gentle as wind through strings. "You have walked through your forgetting. You may come home." She touched the mirror. It rippled beneath her fingers, then drew her in, not as a fall this time, but as an embrace. Light flooded around her, filling every space that had ever felt empty. She saw the tree she had lit, its roots deep in the earth. She saw the chains turn to water, the stone flowers, the stars that had once been ashes, all of it glowing together like a single breath. And then there was only light, quiet, steady, alive. When the brightness faded, Elara stood once more on the hill above the city. Morning had come. The mirror before her was whole again, shining softly in the early sun. Birds moved through the sky, their wings catching the same gold that now pulsed faintly in her veins. She looked toward the town below, the streets, the river, the sleeping windows, and felt their quiet hunger for remembering. "Not everyone will listen," she murmured. "But the light is patient." She lifted the lantern one final time. Its flame flared, and far away, in the market square, a single lamp flickered to life in answer. Another followed, then another. The world was beginning to wake. Elara smiled, a sound somewhere between laughter and prayer. "The fracture is not gone," she said, her voice steady. "But the remembering is louder." Far above the waking city, the lattice shimmered like a living constellation. Within its filaments stood the elders, memory, form, resonance, watching as the first lights kindled below. Each spark that rose from a window, a candle, a heart, threaded itself into the great design until the air itself began to sing. Form traced a hand through the golden weave. "The pattern holds," they murmured. "The forgetting weakens." Memory tilted their head, listening deeper. "Yes, but something else moves beneath the harmony." Resonance turned. Within the lattice's glow, a faint shadow drifted, thin as smoke, cold as absence. It wound itself through the bright threads like ink in clear water. "Is it the silence?" Form asked. "No," said Resonance. "Older than that. Something watching through the fractures she left behind." The shadow pulsed once, softly, like a heartbeat that didn't belong. Far below, Elara paused mid-step. The lantern in her hand flickered, just for an instant. She glanced up at the sky. The morning looked the same, yet something in its light felt heavier, waiting. She whispered to the wind, "I hear you." The air did not answer, it only listened. In the lattice above, the shadow coiled tighter, forming the faint outline of a face, smiling, patient. Memory looked to Form. "It has begun again." Form nodded, "Then she will need to remember faster." The golden weave brightened, humming like a warning bell, as the shadow slipped deeper into the light. And below, on the hill, Elara's flame burned steadily on, unaware that in the spaces between her heartbeats, something vast and unnamed had started to wake.